Hey, what's going on? And welcome back to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Your host, Thomas Keenan, coming at you today. I'm in this fancy Airbnb, right? And I recorded a solo podcast episode a week or two ago, and it actually just went live last Wednesday. And I've been in an Airbnb now since October 16th. Wound up finalizing a divorce, sold my house, and moved out, and got my soon-to-be ex set up and the kids operational in their new place. And then life happened, right? Because life just happens when it happens, and we've all experienced it. I wound up injuring my left arm pretty bad and had to go in for surgery to repair a ruptured bicep tendon. So my initial plan of, getting out of the house, getting them set up, and then going to find a place immediately was like, hey, the universe comes along and is like, knock, knock. It's time for you to sit down and learn a couple of lessons, sir. So here we are in this Airbnb, and it's actually a really cool spot. I'm very happy. It's kind of in the countryside, off the beaten path. There's nobody around. It's quiet. It's a good place to go heal. And I'm like physically healing as we speak, which is cool. But anyway, enough of me. We've got the amazing Jen Crowe
Hey.
today. And Jen and I connected on social media probably just a couple of weeks ago. And just seemed to align pretty good, and shot back a couple of comments here and there on each other's posts. And sooner rather than later, we went up in the DMs, and it's like, hey, you want to come on the podcast? And
Hell yeah.
So welcome. I'm grateful to have you here. And I'm really looking forward to learning a little bit more about your background and what you're doing now. And just to point out some of the similarities that you and I have, we were talking about this before we hit the record button. You spent 20 years in the automotive space, and I spent 22 years in the automotive space. And here we are. Our careers have pivoted. We've gone through life, ups and downs. We hit these, roadblocks, and boom, now we're both in the coaching space in multiple capacities.
Yep.
So, I have a lot of questions. Okay. Tell me about the automotive side of the house. How'd you get involved there, and how did transition over to what you're doing now?
Absolutely. You want me to start with that?
Yeah, let's go.
You got it. So, I'll give you the abridged version of my life story, but I came up in a really tumultuous household. I did not have a fun upbringing. It was very difficult. Ended up living on my own at 15. And at 18, I ended up having my daughter with a man that was just like my father, story goes, right? And I was working 2 jobs. I was pregnant. I was going to school full time, trying to make ends meet. And unfortunately, her father at the time was not the best person. And somehow my bank account kept getting emptied while I was trying to raise her and work. So I ended up in a desperate situation, and a girlfriend of mine worked for a Ford dealership. And this is back in 97. And she comes up to me. She goes, hey, I know you're struggling. Like, would you ever consider selling cars? And I looked at her and I was like, hell no. What? And no, like, no way. And so another month goes by. I can't make ends meet, and I'm just desperate. And I was like, I'll do anything to take care of my kid. I'll do anything. And I just remember walking into that Ford dealership in November of 97. And, I'd never had a mentor at that point. I never, I just free flowing, we make it work. And it was the most overwhelming thing I've ever done in my life to walk in there, only female. Right. And, so I got into the car business back in 97. I started in sales, and it was rough. I mean, the shit that went on in the car dealerships back in the day, it was still happening. Keys on the roof. I can't even tell you how much snow there was on the desk. Like, it was the whole nine. And I was just this influential, very vulnerable, young 19-year-old girl with a baby. And it was sink or swim time, baby. It was like, all right, how are we going to do this? And so what I learned is that in that industry, the sooner you can understand how to not relate to the people around you, but relate to the people that matter in front of you, which were my clients and customers, right? You build rapport. And I was really good at that. And I actually had integrity in this business. So, when the owner would come over and take remember the old phone books, the big fat phone books, throw it on my desk. He's like, you do not leave the dealership until you have a customer in here. I'm like, oh shit. So that's how I got into it. And I just kept swimming, and I learned how to take over finance. So I took over a finance department by 21, took over my first dealership as a GSM by 24. And then it was just, history. Then I started really getting in and pioneering new ways of sales approaches, new ways of connecting. Before we had the internet, of course, I think I had a pager. I was lucky enough to have a pager at the time. It was super teal. And fast forward, I was in the car business and just doing it. And, it grinds on you, man. It's like I grew up in a rough life, and then I got into the super abusive industry, but I just make it work. My daughter got into high school, and I realized when coming home from the dealership, you remember the gruesome hours. You go in at 7 for the meeting, and I was lucky in finance if I got to leave by 2 a.m., right? And then I do it all over again. If 42 days in a row and you ask for a day off and they look at you like, do you want your job? And you're like, okay, never mind. 42 days it is. Let's go. Right? So I decided, okay, time to take a break and a hiatus. So I got out of the auto industry for a brief minute. And I decided bartending looked fun. So I was like, let's try something I've never done. I've been working since I was 9 years old, right? So I was like, I just want a break. So I fluffed my resume, totally lied on my resume to get this job and hid my auto background and started bartending for a while, which turned into me helping them open 3 restaurants, which turned into, okay, I got pulled back into the car business. And then I took over a dealership group. Fast forward a little bit, I was in, when was it? 2015, State Farm Insurance got a hold of me. They go, hey, would you ever consider opening up an agency? It's like, nah, I'm good. Well, then I went on Wheel of Fortune. Okay. And I went on Wheel of Fortune and I won. And the weird serendipitous part of this is that the guy that was trying to recruit me from State Farm was in this podunk tiny little town way up in Northern California. He goes, I saw you on TV and it's a sign you're supposed to work for State Farm. And I was like, all right. Well, I guess if you said it was a sign. So they trained me. I get into State Farm. I open up a scratch agency. Absolutely no book of business. I go into a little town called Healdsburg, California. And it turns out that I'm not welcome there. And nobody wants me there because there's an older, State Farm agent and they think I'm going to steal the business. So I have to get super duper good about learning how to find business when nobody wants you there. So I learned how to leverage social media and I hammered it. I created processes, taught my team to do it. We did so well that other agents were coming to me and I was teaching teams. So that's what I've been doing. That's became kind of my passion piece is learning how to really facilitate emotional experiences virtually.
Yeah.
So I took that off and started running with that and everything was going great. In September of 2017, September 1st, I woke up and I went, oh my God, my life sucks. I'm not happy. What is happening? I've never been happy. Who am I? The epiphany that people talk about. And I literally did the thing. I wiped my whole slate clean. I didn't even think about it. I was in a 9-year emotionless, abusive relationship at the time. My daughter was grown, ready to leave home. I just bought my first house. It was, my dream home. And so I had to make a decision to let it all go so that I could find some peace and happiness in my life. And I did. So in the month of September of 2017, I got divorced. I had to pack and sell my house by myself because he took off. And then I closed my State Farm agency, which was the hardest decision when you've built something like that to let it go. But it was a matter of finding myself and my peace. And if anyone's ever been in that place, whether it's a relationship or something you've built, man, it's the hardest point. That was September. And October 3rd, I ended up flying to Hawaii on a one-way ticket. I was like, well, this is insane. Then the panic sets in. I just did 4 major life transformations in 30 days. So I fly to Hawaii and I'm there and I'm like, wind in my hair. And the guy heard my story. He's like, please just take this convertible Mustang. Just go, like, go enjoy yourself. And the only rule I had when I got to Hawaii was that I would, no plan, let serendipity totally run the whole show. I would find a place to sleep at 7 p.m. in whatever town I ended up in. That was the rule. I wouldn't make any, and I just did it through who I met. And it was incredible. I found myself, liberation. It was like the most amazing thing. And all these parts of me that had been smothered and sleeping for decades, started coming to the surface. And about the 4th day in, I started getting this weird pain in my back. and I couldn't figure out what it was, but I just put myself through like 4 major traumas. So I ignored it, because isn't that what we do as car people? We ignore the pain and we keep pushing. So I did that, and I pushed and pushed, and the pain got more and more intense and more intense. And then a friend flew in to surprise me. I didn't know she was coming, so I didn't even tell her that my shoulder was exploding. I had pain shooting down my arm. I couldn't breathe. It was like an elephant on my chest. And I finally got a hold of my mom, who was a nurse, and she goes, I think you need to go to a chest x-ray. Something doesn't sound right. And I ignored that. So I decided to, well, in my past, when I didn't feel good, just pop some Advil, drink some tequila, go out and dance, all good. So I tried that route, did that for a few days. And then on October 9th of 2017, we got back from dinner. She went passed out, and I knew something was really, really wrong. And it was that moment that I was like, holy crap. Because where I was on Maui, I was in Kihei, but where I could get a chest x-ray was almost 2 hours away. So I'd have to go by ambulance. So I start walking down to the front desk, and I'm asking them to please call me an ambulance. And my phone is just blowing up in my pocket. I'm thinking it's my friend. I answer the phone, and this woman starts screaming into my phone. And all she's saying is, where are your parents? Where are your parents? The cars are in the driveway. Where are your parents? And she's screaming. And I'm like, who is this? What's going on? And then she says, the fire is in their backyard. We can't wake them up. So the night that I had my episode was the same night the fire started in Northern California. And my parents' house was the southernmost point of the fire. So now I've got adrenaline sets in, panic sets in. I forget I'm in pain. All I'm thinking about is my daughter is in town in Sonoma that's burning, my parents, anyway. Long story short, I finally get a hold of National Guard. They let me know that they've been rescued. They're safe. Great. Go out to dinner that night. I collapse, and I am rushed to the emergency room. And while I'm in the emergency room, I'm going in and out of consciousness. And then finally, the next thing I know, I wake up in the morning, the doctor's standing over me, and he said, we absolutely have no idea scientifically how you are here. Somebody that's been this far gone for this long has less than a 2% chance at survival. We're giving you about 24 hours. And they said, it's time to get your affairs in order. So I was laying there dying in a hospital. My parents, my entire family is unreachable. They're being evacuated. And I just arrived on my last day, and I was just told I'd suffered a massive bilateral pulmonary embolism, and that there was no coming back from that. So to answer your question, fast forward, the things that I saw when I went under, the fact that I'm here is a complete miracle. They cannot understand how my blood pressure and my heart rate dropped to the point that it did, which stopped all the clots from causing the massive coronary that they were expecting. And so it took me a month to pull through, but I was in Hawaii when this happened, and the energy and the forces that were behind my survival came with some pretty big messages about purpose and my mission. And it really catapulted me into this life coaching realm. And life coaching is it's life navigation. So really my purpose became showing other people how to correct the situation, correct their life, reroute, redirect. And on the last day, the things that mattered most are your connections, nurtured, forgiven with yourself and others. So my message was really clear, is to show other people how to navigate what they're going through so that they don't end up on their last day with regrets like I did.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Got it. Yeah, real crazy. Lots of lessons there.
Right.
But when stuff like that happens, I refer to it as a life-altering event.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And like yours was on like the extreme side of the house for sure.
Right.
Some of the ones I've had are, becoming a dad, getting married, starting a business. Those are life-altering events or literally burning into the ground. Yeah. But what my point is for the listeners is like, don't always expect a life-altering event to be this massive happening. It could be something that's smaller and you don't realize it until 3 months, 7 months later that, that was the pivot. That was the moment right there that actually made me decide to go down this route.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. We have all, I put a post up recently saying, since 2019, how many versions of yourself have you met or morphed into? And everybody's like, I don't know, 10, and it is true. To your point, every single minute perspective shift that you have for whatever reason is a life-changing event. Absolutely.
Yeah,
We
I
just don't
agree.
want them to be massive.
Well, I don't know how to do it any other way. I'm similar to you.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah. I've gone through a bunch over the last few years, and I like history, right? And I like to review things that have happened, and usually history repeats itself. So what are the triggers? What are the things that, cause this life-altering event or this burning of everything you've built to the ground to happen? And I've done it twice in the last 3 years. And when I look back at it, I was like, oh, I know exactly what triggered this. And for me, it was doing 75 hard.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with the program or not.
I am very familiar. I have not done it, but I do know it.
Yeah. Every time that I've done it, I've literally burned shit to the ground, either immediately or shortly after.
Okay.
So the first round was June. We actually started May, like the last week of May in 2020. I was still living in New York. Right, I spent my first 4 years in New York. Living in New York, COVID is its thing, and like we've got this choice right now, because I spent 3 weeks because now society has said to everyone, it's okay for you to be average, take your foot off the gas, stay at home, get shit-faced drunk. Oh, by the way, we're going to deliver the alcohol to you.
It's so true.
Don't go outside because you're going to die. Right. So, I mean, I fell for the trap just like everybody else. Yeah. So 3 weeks into it, I got real tired of doing nothing. I'm like, all right, I have a choice here. I can either continue doing nothing, come out on the backside of COVID average and or below average like society, most of society, or I can go in and do the work right now that others are refusing to go do and just come out stronger. So that's what I did. And I got 3 days into that one, and I realized that I wasn't living in congruency with a lot of the core values that I'd established for myself. Mm-hmm. So I had a choice, because like I'm the dude who wrote the book on core values. Cool. Well, I'm known for that. And now I discovered that I'm not living my core values. Right. So I can either continue down this path and may as well just slap a fraud sticker on my forehead and let me walk around for the rest of life, or go address the issues and fix them. Yeah. Right. And that's what I wound up doing. And for me, that was selling a business that I was not really in love with, never was, but it was a good means for an income and gave me a very stable, good life for many years. Sold my house in New York and picked up my family. We moved halfway across the country to Dallas, Texas. So that was version one. Fast forward, so it's funny, October 9th.
No way.
Date, October 9th. We have a date. So my birthday is October 8th, by the way. Which is
okay.
October 9th of 2022, I started my second round of 75 hard. And, I'm experienced with it at this point. I've gone through this, and people think of it as like, an exercise or a fitness challenge. And yeah, that's part of it. That's like the results that you get. Yep. But it's up here. It's in the head. So I get into this, do it. I did it with 2 other people. We ended right around 3 or 4 days before Christmas. And it wasn't until mid-January or so, where I started having knock, knock, hey, there's some things here that you haven't been, looking at. Some things need to be addressed. You need to look at this. And what it ended up being was, me diving deep internally. I'm not happy with X, Y, and Z in my life right now. Oh, and by the way, I'm the one who built it.
Right.
So what do? Do you continue moving down this path of inauthenticity, or do we make some changes here that are going to ruffle feathers, a lot of feathers, and you're going to have to burn more to the ground in order to get the end desired result that you really want? And again, that's what I wound up doing, and that's what led down this whole path of me having some very heart-to-heart conversations with my ex, and going down the path of divorcing and separating a family and like all this crazy shit that comes along with it. But I'll tell you this, as crazy as it's been, and you'll get this too, I don't regret any of it, because I know it was the right choice for me, the individual.
Right.
Right. And occasionally in life, it's really good for one to be selfish. You have to be.
Well, yeah, especially one that gives to others, right?
I
Can't
agree.
pour from an empty cup, as they say.
You cannot.
No.
So, all right, let's go back to you here for a minute. You get through this whole car thing. You do well over there. You get through insurance. You have a life altering event, which literally almost takes you out of the game completely.
Right. Right.
You come out of that, and you have to be a changed person pretty much immediately.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
So
We talk about the woo, right?
Yeah,
What's that?
like what does life look like at this point now, where you've had this life altering event, you've experienced some things, and now it's like, okay, what do I do moving forward?
Yeah. Well, I'll start this part of the conversation off like this, is that people that have life altering events or near death experiences, there is portions of it that I don't hear people talking about enough. And it's not all rainbows and butterflies. It's not like you come out of here all rebirth, right? That rebirth is ugly AF. It's not easy. Man, the depression I hit for the following year was a beast. It was a beast. So basically, it's like you have to learn how to unravel. In my case, this happened when I was 39. So I had to learn how to unravel 39 years of abuse, survival, victimhood, my, perceived notions and programming.
Yep.
And everyone expects you to come out in this environment where that's all changed. And then, so that puts even more of a burden on you, because you have this feeling of like, I need to show up as this person. I need to start speaking. I need to start talking about this. And I'm like, who the FM? Oh shit. Like, what do I do? So I went from, full of life, yay, second chance, to, oh my God, to like, where do I go? So that pushed me and propelled me into, you're talking about losing it all, right? Couple things I have learned is that if you are not uber specific about what you want, uber specific, then your higher, whoever it is, whatever your power is, doesn't know quite how to deliver that, right? So I have asked for direction. They're like, okay, you want a rebirth? No problem. Here's a pulmonary embolism. I'm like, well, that's not what I really wanted. And then, going forward, it's been this up and down, reinventing myself, because there's always a part of me that's tied to the hustle and the grind. Always, yeah. Right? It's because we've been so programmed. It's about money. It's what you're making. It's supporting, and it's doing the thing. And so I'm used to being in this very high value position where I made a ton of money. Well, now my life and unraveling, it was a process I had to learn. So I developed what I call the cellular method, which is learning how to deprogram and disconnect from all the survival training you get in life and the false identities appearing real that you're calling your own. Right. And then learning how to reprogram yourself into who you're supposed to be. Well, who I'm supposed to be is a person that's now really of service and teaching other people how to do this. Well, that doesn't come with a paycheck, bro. So it's, so there's inner conflict constantly trying to figure this out. So I've gone way up, gone way down. I started a recruiting company because I'm really good at master connecting. And then I went, it's like, this is not in alignment. What am I doing? So it's been a shuffle. But what I'm royally focused on is the cellular method. It's teaching other people how to do this. It's really teaching people how to disconnect to reconnect. And it's a scary, scary process. So the last 3 years has been me going through it so I could understand it and learn it and do it. That's a constant process. I've now totally believed that 39 years or 40 years or 60 years of programming, it takes a while. So it's how committed are you to the like 75 hard, right? How committed are you to the process?
Yep.
So right now, I do life and social navigation. I teach people this process in life. I really work a lot with men because men and I understand, I talk the talk and I walk the walk and I get it. But I also come in with the nurturing piece. I can be the nurturer. I can be very direct. I can command attention and results, but I can also be there. I'm the one that's going to acknowledge you, appreciate you, and give you that nurture that you need while you're going through the process. And a lot of men don't get that from spouses. A lot of men don't get that from their male friends or coaches. So that's one piece that it's very different. And then on the social side, a lot of people, when I say define, one of the first things you do as my client is I want to know what your vision of success is all the way down to the bottom. Right. And that's a huge discovery piece, because a lot of people, when you say, what's your version of success, they can't answer it. What's your version of happy? I don't use the word happy, but I want contentment. I want joy. I want peace. Those are my versions of happy, right? How do you get that? So it's creating that blueprint. But part of that is the social connection through social media. You and I wouldn't be having this conversation, which is going to impact, even if it impacts one person that moves their needle because they heard this, job well done, right? But that came through social media. People want to define success as, I want to reach a pivotal apex and I want to earn and grind and do the whole thing. I want to have these things, or I want to provide, whatever that looks like. Well, we know that the virtual world is your platform, but people don't understand how to genuinely connect and communicate through there and build community, not followers. Screw the followers. You don't need a million followers. You need this much tight community. And so that's what I teach, because that's part of getting to the end result that we are all seeking. So that's my passion. I'm writing the book right now. I'm in the process of it and trying to get my show up, and I'm working on my purpose project and trying to find sponsors and funding and all that fun stuff. But this is all new to me. I mean, I don't got all the answers yet. I'm figuring it out. Yeah. So, yeah.
Look, that's a beautiful thing right there. And I think it, for the people who are listening too, like, take note. You don't have to have all the answers or the perfect game plan or the perfect business plan built to take action. And in my experience, in my experience, you often don't know what the next step is you're going to take until you take a couple steps forward. It's kind of like, driving down. 100%. I use the analogy of, like, it's a real foggy morning. It's dark out. You leave the house and you're just about to cross over this, like, small covered bridge or some crap, and it's all foggy. Yeah. Right? You have to get a couple of feet forward in order to see the next couple of feet in front of you to make the next decision. Yeah. Right. And the same thing happens in life. You've got to take those steps forward and take some actual action before you know, okay, well, I don't know if I'm going to go right or left here. So,
so true. Darren Hardy's, voice is always in the back of my head, which is plan, do, review, improve, right? Or launch and adjust constantly. And it really, that's the first thing we do, is decide what you want. What do you know is one actionable step you can take? Even if it's, it's a small step, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to make you bite off a larger chunk. That's just how I do, but I'm going to make sure that you feel confident in the reason that you're doing it. But it is just launch, just go. Otherwise, what do we say? If you don't do it today, you're going to be in this exact same space a year from now. And that's enough to make me want to vomit. So,
I got something here. It's funny. I usually don't have a notebook in front of me, but it's one of those things that works out on today's call here. I had a call with my business coach yesterday, and it's funny because the subtitle of my book is, basically, it's called "Unfuck Your Business," and self-sabotage has to do a lot with the book. And I was on a call with her, and she gave me three ways to self-sabotage, and we clearly defined them. Right. Number one is delay. Okay. And you can use the delay in, it's not the perfect plan yet, therefore I'm going to wait until it's perfect. Okay. Boom. Self-sabotage. Number two is doubt. And a lot of this happens to come in the form of self-doubt or a limit of self-worth in one person. And if you trace self-worth back, like I'm sure you probably have, it has a lot to do with what happened in the childhood.
All the things. Yeah.
Ask me how I know.
Right.
And the final piece of this here is division, right? It's like you go out there and you ask your people, hey, which of these should I do? Should I go with A or should I go with B? And you're going to get 15 different answers, and you're going to come back in and you're going to be like, well, I don't know what to go with. Well, you ask too many damn people. What does in here tell you to do?
Right.
Fucking do it.
Right. 100%. Yeah. You have to, the part of this though too is having the compassion to understand what people want when you've been told one thing, and I go back to men because it's just, the core of that is, as I'm sure you realize, it's generational ties and programming. It's generational speak that is the forefront of the brain, which you're told, no feelings, shut the F up, do it, take it. You don't get to be emotional. You're a man, all the things that that's instilled. That's why I talk about these false identities. people assume that. And then oftentimes I ask people, you built success or you did all these things for so long. And I go, great. Was that your idea? Are your belief systems your own? And that makes people stop. Yeah, it makes people stop and pause. So you have to, it's getting that awareness piece so people can actually stop and go, do I have permission to think on my own? I mean, it's like, do I have permission to do something different than what I'm supposed to do? Mm-hmm. Right. And that's the action. Sometimes that's the first action step is the awareness piece and the decision to choose yourself. Right.
Yeah. I think permission too is a big piece. And I often, wind up having this conversation with clients when I'm doing one-to-one coaching too. And it's like you have a conversation with them. They're in that self-sabotage state, delay, doubt, division, whatever it may be. And you have to give them the authority. You have to tell them that it's okay for you to go ahead and do this.
Yeah.
Right. And oftentimes it's that little piece of reinforcement that they have from the third party that's not emotionally attached to the situation, aka coaching. Okay.
Yep.
That says, oh, cool. So I just got permission from the coach. Therefore, I'm now going to give myself permission to go do this. Let's roll.
Right. Right. I call it subconscious obedience or unconscious obedience to a false narrative. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I like it. So, all right, what's next? Because we talked about a lot of different things here. You got some things going on. You got some things in the works, which is cool. Congrats on getting started on the book. Can I tell you a little fun stat on authors?
Yeah.
So I wrote my book in 2018, 2019, and it launched, I think it was June 7th of 2019.
Okay.
So afterwards, you're all happy as a pig in shit kind of deal. Like you just accomplished some cool thing and you've got the tangibility of the book in your hand now. Cause I don't know about you, but I ordered the very first copy when it went live on Amazon.
Of course. Yeah.
And I was like a shit on Christmas morning.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
And I'm building this thing that I just spent the last 8 or 9 months of my life putting together with the help of others. And it's just a really cool feeling to have this book there. I totally forgot what I was going to tell you, but here it is. I lost my train of thought for a second. I haven't had enough coffee yet.
No worries.
When I went to Google and I did the search, there is less than 0.01% of the Earth's population that is a published author. And I'm not talking about just books. I'm talking about published even in articles and blogs and magazines.
Sure.
So it is a ridiculously small fraternity or sorority that you're about to become a member of.
Love it.
You actually go live with it. So
cool. That's exciting. Wow, I had no idea. You would think there's so many.
Yes, you would think there's so many, and yet there's not. It's one of those things that scares people to death. It's kind of like public speaking. You either you got it in you or you don't, or you tell yourself a bullshit story. It's not for me.
I love public speaking. That's my jam.
Yeah. It's funny to me. It's all communication, right? And communication is one of my core values in business and in personal life. And I never thought in a million years that I'd write a book. Never thought in a million years that I'd speak on stage. Never thought in a million years that I'd run my own group of people and help them succeed in business every day. And yet here we are. Mm-hmm. And all of the work that I did from about, we'll call it 2017 up until, it still happens to this day, but 2017 to 2019, 2 full years of practicing the art of communication. So I have my own service-based business at the time, and most of the communication that we have with our vendors and our clients is email-based. Okay, it was B2B, and it was working with a lot of corporations, so they love to live in the email realm.
Okay.
So lots of emails going back and forth all day long. Every time you type an email and send it, you're practicing communication. You get yourself on social media and you post a minimum of 1 time per day, which I think it should be the bare minimum. Once again, you're practicing your writing, you're practicing form of communication. Yeah. You do a Facebook Live, a LinkedIn Live, or an Instagram Live, whatever your choice is there. Once again, you're practicing the art of communication. You get in front of a group of people, whether it's 10 people or 100 people in a room, you're practicing the art of communication. You write the book, you're practicing the art of communication. So we have so many opportunities put in front of us each and every day to go work on this art and craft of communication. And yet so many of us want to pull up the bullshit excuse and say, well, there's just not enough time for that. Or that's not for me, that's for somebody else. Right. And I almost want to reach to the screen and grab them in a not so nice way and shake the shit out of them.
Yeah. One of the biggest forms of communication that people leave out is how we communicate with ourselves.
Oh,
That's an
yeah.
art too, right?
It is, for sure. For sure. Can we talk a little bit about negative self-talk?
Heck yeah. All day.
Because I'll give you a little bit of mine for some examples, and then I'd love to, if you're comfortable with it, if you can share some of the ones that you've fought.
I'm an open book. You got it. Ask me anything.
Cool. Well, I'm the same way. I'm just open as can be. One of the biggest ones that I fought for the longest time was me. And I would, in a joking way, I would refer to myself as fat in a conversation. Like, I'm a big guy. I'm like, right now I'm 6'4", 275, and I'm in some of the best shape of my life.
Nice. Yeah.
When I was not taking care of myself, I was floating around 315, and it was not a good 315.
Gotcha.
So for many years, the programming up here was, oh, I'm just a fat guy. And you keep saying it, you keep saying it, you keep saying it, you keep saying it. And what you wind up doing is you're programming the subconscious to believe that, yes, you are a fat guy. You are this fat, sloppy human being. Therefore, you are the fat, sloppy human being.
Right.
And it took a close friend and a coach of mine to call me out on it after I had done it multiple times in front of him to say, hey, would you stop saying you're fat? Because if you keep saying you're fat, you're going to continue being fat. Correct. And even though I was saying that I was fat, I was still taking the steps to take care of myself. I was still hitting the gym 3 days a week, and I hadn't dialed in my diet and stuff at that point. But when I got that negative self-talk out completely, that's when things started to change dramatically in the health and fitness area of my life.
Right. Yeah. It's, so that to their point, when you talk about, when you get into the quantum side of things, right? What we think is electric, what comes from our heart is magnetic. So it's out, brings in. Does that make sense? So one of the core things when it comes to the self-deprecating talk, just like you had mentioned before, that's not usually something that's stirred up on our own. That's something that is brought forward from our inner child. Something, I would imagine something around the age of 8 or 9 is probably something that really pushed that in there. And it is because we have a tendency, if we have not become secure, there's different attachment styles, right? But there's also the attachment that we have to ourselves, which is often, again, false identity. You're not fat, but somehow you've decided that you are, right? Or you've decided that to belong or to be able to communicate in a group that maybe you feel is of a different value or higher value, that we use this as humor. A lot of people use this humor, right? And it's 100%. It is all about how we see ourselves, and I was definitely one of those too. I would make comments about myself or being, oh, I'm so tall. I'm always the tallest one in the room. But it wasn't because I was proud of it. It's because I was super insecure about it, right? Men didn't want tall women, I thought. Men didn't. I'm 5'10" without my shoes on. I put heels on, I'm like 6'1", And so we do that until we shed that identity. And that is really going back. And that's one of the exercises I use, is going back to the core of where it started and dropping that anchor, right? Cutting that tie. But it's a form of self-deprecation. And people do it so subconsciously. Again, that unconscious obedience to an idea or identity that doesn't belong to us.
Yeah. So what would be your suggestion to those people who have now just realized, oh shit, since Tom and Jen just talked about this, I've been doing that to myself for the last 3, 4, 5, 10 years. What's your suggestion to them? What action items or action steps can they take to eradicate that kind of negative self-talk from their lives?
Right. So the first one, I say, number one, make the decision that you want change, that you want to be different, right? But the thing is you can't just say, I want to do it, right? We're talking about that magnetic feeling. You need to feel the reason why. You need to feel that why. Why do you want to be different? What does that do for you? What does that do for people you care about? What's different once that happens? The second part of that is, I call it the 6 levels of why. So if there's something that you're saying to yourself, I will push people. It's like chess, right? Life is chess, leading the horse, all the things. Let's use fat for a reason. Well, why do you say that? And people get really uncomfortable because it's supposed to be uncomfortable, right? That is the price we pay for being at peace, is some discomfort. Why do you do it? And then the second they give me that answer, we're going to go 6 more times. Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? I guarantee it's usually by number 5 that we get to the core root of where that shit came from.
Yep.
And then it's like, it's a simple question. Do you want to carry this forward? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's all the acknowledging of it, right? And then so it's no, right? Are we going to drop it? Yes. Then you can go into your woo-woo stuff. Are you going to burn it in a bowl? Are you going to bury it? What do you want to do? Do you want me to cut your tie? Like, what are we doing? And then from that place, how are we going to fill this with the positive impacting? Yeah. So it's reversing. I am fat. No, I get to be strong and secure because I choose to be. I get to be. If I change the narrative, it's I get to be. And then it becomes I am. People like to go to I am before they actually believe it. So it's I get to be this. And then it's I am. Yeah. That's the process I use, and it's very effective.
I like that. Yeah, because if you go right to I am, you're actually skipping a step. It makes sense.
People don't. You can't assume and believe and be something. You can't. Take on what you don't believe, what you don't feel. So you got to feel it.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
This has been awesome. We talked about a lot of cool things. We learned a little bit about your history, some of the accomplishments, some of the failures you had, near-death experiences. We talked some woo-woo stuff, which I always enjoy.
I love it.
And
yeah, a lot of people don't know the woo-woo side because I tip on it a little bit here, but I do. That near-death experience cracked open a lot of other gifts, and one of them is the ability to. I'll use the word channel lightly, but I can see things and I can tap into souls a little bit differently and see people differently, which has been extremely beneficial.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you start going in and doing some of the deep inner work, which is a pretty broad topic. I think it's different for everyone. And when you start going through and doing a lot of that work and you do some of the healing that's required in those spaces, a couple of things will change for you. And some people may call them gifts. Some people may call it intuition. You just have a different level of awareness. I think it's different for everyone that goes through it as well. I would definitely say that my awareness is at a heightened state compared to what it used to be just a few short years ago. You definitely want to pay more attention to the feelings you get internally. For me, like, it's like, okay, you're in a situation, having a conversation with someone and something comes through and you don't ignore it. And it's funny.
Right.
I read Will Smith's book. Let me rephrase. I didn't read it. I listened to the audio version of it.
Yeah.
Because he narrated it. And he talks heavily in that book about having those little fuzzy feelings when you're about to go do something, or you're in a situation, or you're not doing the right thing, and you get this little jolt, the little birdie chirping in your ear. Like, that's a form of intuition. You have to you should be listening to those things when they pop in your life.
Absolutely.
But he talks about that heavily in the book, and it just resonated with me when I heard it. So if you guys want to listen to, go check out Will Smith's book. Gives you his whole life story and tells you from start to finish, or up to pretty recent of what's going on in his life. And it was something that was just enjoyable, and I learned some stuff from it. So
he's always good.
Yeah. I agree. So what's the plan for your book? What's your approximate launch date? What does this look like for you?
So I'm in the process of writing it. I am not a perfectionist. I am definitely an ADHDer. So I sit down, I write, or I verbalize it, and I walk away, and then I go, no, I want to add more. I want to do it different. I want to, so hopefully within the next few months, I will have this wrapped up. It's constantly being written. And then the next step for me is I am working on a tour that I'm calling From the Depths to Dreams. And I'm working on the sponsorship part of this right now. But one of the things I want to do is bring these types of stories, but the entire process, to more people. So I want to try, my goal is to impact 11 million in 11 months. So hit the road, California to Florida first, interview people along the way on a show where I'm talking about from the depths, the absolute depths of life to the process they went through to reach their dreams. And then speak to Second Chance Youth, which is a big place in my heart, and military veterans. So I'm working on that. That's a big next project. And then, ranking my roster with people that need social media help and need that cellular method.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So with all that being said, what's the best place for people to connect with you if they want to learn more about the social media stuff or other things you got going on?
Absolutely. That'd be my website, which is growwithcrowe.com. Crowe has an E like Russell, not Cheryl. For those of you that are old enough to know that, I just realized somebody told me, they're like, you can't say that anymore. You can't say, because people don't know who that is. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? I'm not that old. I refuse.
Yeah, it's funny. I was at an event the other day, and one of the speakers was there, made a reference to Johnny Five, the movie. And then when she was done with it, she's like, there's only like 5 of you who were in the room who didn't understand the reference.
It's so true. I say that, and right when I said it, I'm like, nope. Half this audience isn't gonna know who I'm talking about.
And it's all good. And I appreciate you coming on here today and shooting the breeze and good stuff out. Yep. Thanks.
Absolutely.